Have you ever opened up Canva, grabbed a template, tried to use the template, and then realized that you made the template look really bad? I want to show you in this video how you're making your templates look bad, like common design mistakes I see DIYs making, business owners making as they're creating the graphics on Canva that are just little tweaks that are making their designs just really look unprofessional. Because when our brand looks unprofessional, it does a caveat of things. It means that our business no longer looks professional. It means that our business no longer looks elevated and like it's a proper business that people want to trust with their hard-earned money. And when they're seeing a business where it's on social media or a flyer or a website, the trust that it takes to build with an unprofessional looking brand as it does to a professional looking brand is huge. And so if we can make our graphics look really professional at a glance by not making these design mistakes, then we're going to find it so much easier to draw clients into us, to help them to want to trust us, to help them to want to work with us, and to be able to charge more for our product or service. So in this tutorial, I'm going to get up real Canva templates and ruin them and show you exactly what I'm doing wrong so that you can do something right. So hi, my name is Jacqui and I'm a graphic designer who loves teaching business owners how they can create their own incredible brand and graphics through programs like Canva so they can have a standout and professional business without having to hire a professional. And so I think some people think design principles are really boring, like hierarchy and contrast and balance and alignment, but they're actually game changers when it comes to elevating your business's graphics. So it does all those things I mentioned before. It does those things of elevating your brand, of helping it look professional, of helping people to trust you, of helping you to stand out. All of these things when we know these design principles. Now, this video is part of a series that I'm doing called What Every Business Owner Needs to Know When They're DIYing Their Graphics in Canva. And so if you want to learn more about these principles that I'm teaching, there are more places you can go to watch that. So let's dive in. First up, I've got a template here. I've just picked a wide variety of templates from Canva. So you can see this one, this one, this one, and this one. I'm going to go through these with you and ruin them. So I'm going to pretend that I'm using these as a business owner and I'm applying my branding to it. And I'm going to make some decisions around what my information is going to be and what my images are going to be, and watch how that changes the dynamics of the template to make it not look as great as it once did, and then what you can do to fix that. So first up, I'm going to open up my brand kit. If you have Canva Pro, you have access to a brand kit, which means that you can load in your logos, your colors, your fonts, your brand elements, all these different bits and pieces. If you want to have a brand but don't yet have a brand yet, I really recommend getting one because having a consistent brand is what's going to help making designing easier and quicker, which is what all business owners need. And it's also going to help to form trust and recognizability with your audience and professional. It just amplifies everything. And so if you don't have a brand yet, I'm going to show you how you can create your own at the end of this video. So because I already have my brand, I'm going to then apply that to this graphic. And I'm going to do it kind of in a bad way so you can see how you can ruin things. So firstly, I'm going to click on the background here. I'm going to change the color of it to one of my brand colors. If I click over here, you can see my brand colors in here for white deer. Change it to my classic purple. I'm also going to grab a picture. Now, I've got a whole folder of images that I use for my branding. I've also got the photos down here, but I've also got a folder. So I'm going to head to my folder and I've uploaded some less professional images to these folders to help illustrate my point here. So for example, I'm going to bring in this good photo. You can see that this still looks like quite a nice graphic. But if I bring in this photo here, which is just a selfie I took in some bad lighting, it de-elevates the design in an instant. And so the first point I want to share is if you have the budget for a professional photographer, to totally invest in that. It makes a huge difference to the way that your graphics look if your photos are professional or not. So say, for example, I'll bring in again my nice photo, elevated, beautiful, clean, crisp, clear, well lit. Everything is working for this and it makes the design look elevated. But if I just use a badly lit photo, again, it's just looking a bit ho-hum. And so do some research, find someone local to you and get a brand photo shoot. If you don't have the budget for a huge full day brand photo shoot like what I did, what I recommend doing is finding a brand photographer that maybe offers a branding day where you can go in with a lot of different other business owners and you can get half an hour to get a few really great headshots, a few really great photos and be on your way with those. That is a lot more price efficient. But if you have no money for a photographer, you can even just take your own photos well. Like even if I just insert this photo, which was just a selfie that I took right here in this chair, it still looks a little bit better. It's got some better lighting and it's a bit of a clearer photo. And so if you don't have a brand photographer, even just getting your phone, getting in front of a window, if you don't have some fancy lights, getting in front of a window, facing yourself towards that window, making sure the camera is not too close to your face and is far away, doing those few things and making sure your lens on your camera is clean, just rubbing it with your shirt, that will do a lot to help your images look more professional. So that's the bare minimum. And then the better you can get of getting a professional photo shoot will do a big difference as well. All right, so after I insert a picture, I'm going to reinsert my bad photo to help illustrate my point here. But I'm going to change this to my brand colors, which I usually use. I'm going to use a bad one here. Let's do this one. I'm going to make this into my brand font, which at the moment I am using Poppins. Make that nice and bold. All right. So far this is looking okay, but it's already got a few things that aren't working for it. Firstly, this text down here, because I've changed the background to a darker color, the contrast between the background and the foreground is not strong enough. So it's actually getting hard to read. And you can imagine this is often going to be viewed on someone's phone if it's an Instagram post, and that phone screen is quite small. And so this text is getting really, really small. This isn't too bad, but because we've got dark text and it's quite small on a dark background, it's getting really tricky to read. So some ways that you would fix this is by making it bolder and maybe making the text white, or making the background color lighter so it stands out a little bit more. But I'm going to keep making it badly just to continue illustrating my point. I might also think about adding in some of my brand elements. So if I go over to my brand, I scroll down to my graphics here, I've got a few different elements I like to use. And so it's going to be hard for me to do these badly. For example, putting this here, it's kind of getting a little bit, again, the contrast and the readability is getting a bit low, so it's getting a bit tricky to read. If I put this on here and I put this like over the top of some text, that could be a wrong thing to do. And a big thing that people do a lot of the time, and it's one of the biggest mistakes I see people do, is having too much text or not rearranging the text to suit your needs. So exclusive offer for you today. And then I have, say I have some more text in here. I'm just going to copy and paste to illustrate my point here. And then you just make it longer to suit. But now what's happening is things are just getting they're not only getting really busy, which is a bad thing, but if I just even move this away, things are quite close to the edge of this box and it's starting to look really cramped and unprofessional. And so if you have more text that you need to use in a template, make sure you're actually rearranging the template to suit your more text, not just making the text box bigger and having things getting way too close to the edges of things. So if I just make this text box a bit wider, I've gained my room back again here, which is useful. I'm going to also bring this away. It's too busy here. So I'm actually going to make it backwards in the design. So it's kind of just maybe over the photo, but not over the text box. And then if I want to do this one, this is too close to this bottom edge here. So I might have to make this box bigger itself. So I'm actually going to delete these lines because this template has made it not so, I can actually make this easier. I can grab this box, I can click border and insert a border instead of just adding lines to it. Then I can lift this text up. So instead of it being right at the bottom of the text box like it was before, I can lift this up and bring it so it's got that more space. It's got more room. And again, to fix this, I would change the colors of these probably to white, or I'd change this box to being a lighter color. So I could change this to being even this color here, super clean and crisp. Might make these one of my brand colors that's a little bit lighter so it's got some contrast, maybe even white so it's got a bit more airy. And that's kind of looking okay again. But again, this photo is dragging it down. So I'm going to just replace that image again, make this a bit smaller. And again, that's working for me a little bit more. All right, let's go to the next one and ruin that. Again, I'm going to use a poor photo. Again, you can see instantly how that again just de-elevates the design, whereas putting in a professional photo makes a big difference to how great it looks. You have to again make sure that you're using a right photo though. Like you can see when I insert this photo, my head is just popping out there. And again, that looks rubbish. But if I double click on this and make this image larger so that my head is in the right spot, then again, it looks good. Okay, now I need to change these to my branding fonts. So you can see here, because the font that was already in here was quite a narrow font, if I just undo that, you can see how narrow it is. The letters are quite skinny. And when I change it to my font, which is not narrow, everything changes. And so if I was just to make this text all fit in, making it smaller, then this changes the look of the design quite a lot. And even though I've tried my best to make this look nice, it doesn't look as good in my initial template because there's all of this blank space in the middle now. Things are less clear and readable, and it's just a little bit less punchy. So sometimes we need to decide, actually, hey, this template might not work for me. Maybe it's just too different to my current brand. So a great recommendation I give my students is if you're finding a template, try to find a template that already aligns to your brand. So say, for example, if I go to the template section here inside the design panel, I could even search, like if my brand was minimal, I could search for minimal templates and look down here and see, okay, cool, this is already similar to my brand. Let's then apply my branding to that. It will be a lot easier and a lot less work rather than choosing a brand it's polar opposites to what your brand already looks like. Say, for example, I could use this one instead. I'm going to, actually, maybe this is probably more punchy like my brand. I could insert that instead. Again, replace my imagery, change my fonts. And because this is already such a wide font, it's going to work fine with my font. You can see in here, I just want to make a note of this as well. There's some letter spacing in here. If I go to spacing, you can see there's some letter spacing. My font, my branding, I don't use letter spacing quite so much, so I would actually make sure that I bring that back to 0. And I rarely have a white background, so I'd need to change this to being my purple color, which again makes my text invisible, so I'd have to change that to being a darker color. I could do this, or I could do black if that's matched my branding. And then I could add in some of my brand elements if I wanted to, if the graphic wasn't already looking enough like my own business. So even for me, adding in just a bit of a purple blob here could do it. So that kind of works, but it might not have worked if I had have just applied that last template that didn't suit my branding fonts and didn't suit the vibe of my business. Next up, we've got this one here, which is quite a fun design, but again, really easy to mess up. So again, if I insert some bad photos in here, it's already not looking so great. The reason this kind of works is because the photos themselves are quite bright and bold and punchy, and it works with the colors. But it might work if I insert my nice photos. So I'm going to just do the bad ones for now. And I would have to change these to my brand colors. So I'm going to click on this, change the purple. If I press change all down here, it will change every occurrence of that color inside this template. So if I just press change all, you'll see that it changed the same blue that was there, which just saves me an extra click. I'm actually finding it really tricky to do a bad job of this. All I want to do is make it look pretty. So I've actually done quite a good job of the colors here. And that's not where I'm going to stuff up this mostly, because I've already shown you how you can do the wrong colors in this graphic. So say, for example, if I grab this one, I could do the wrong colors by making this kind of too similar or too jarring. You can see this kind of jars against each other. Just make sure that not all of my colors in my color palette actually work well together. So it's about checking the contrast and making sure that things are actually looking readable and not feeling hard to look at. So again, I could change these fonts to being a really poor color choice as well. You'll see as I'm trying all these colors to try to find a bad one, because this is such a dark background color, most of my colors work okay on it. So if you have a dark color, that's why I recommend people having darker colors, lighter colors, and mid-tones in your color palette so that you have a range that will actually work in different scenarios. You can see that the colors there, this looks so hard to read. So just always making sure that you're double checking that things look good in person. I'm going to change all of my fonts. Actually, this has already had my brand font in it, so that's really useful. Say, for example, I change this background color to something that doesn't quite work either. All right, so what was once a really great template is now looking a bit ho-hum because I've just done some really bad color contrast and I've used unprofessional photos. So you can kind of just see how I've ruined that. And the way I would fix this is by simply just changing the colors and make them actually work and using that professional imagery. So I'm just going to do that now just for a moment, just to kind of show you what I mean. So I've used the exact same color palette, but I've applied the colors differently, making sure that all of my text is readable and making sure the colors aren't really jarring against each other and making sure that it feels like me and my business. And it looks so much better. If you're enjoying this so far, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for many more lessons and to show your support. I just love when I see every single one of those thumbs ups. All right, so let's go to this one here next. This one is really easy to mess up, especially if you're using the wrong text. So I'm going to replace this text with my own text to show you what this means. All right, so I've changed the text now, and now I'm going just to edit the colors and the fonts to match my business and my brand. All right, I'm also now going to delete these elements because while these are really cute, they're not my branding. So I'm going to delete those and delete this. We always need to make sure that when we're using a template, we're stripping back the elements that aren't ours and bringing in our own. Okay, so here's what I'm going to work with now. You can see this is already not looking great, and there's a few reasons why that is, and I'll share with you what that is as I fix it again. Firstly, obviously our text isn't readable, so what I could do is just make this a bit bigger, but then we're going to be running out of room down here, so it's just getting a little bit tricky. And so what I would recommend doing a lot of the time is actually just changing your text. Sometimes we don't want to have too much text in our images, and we want to move them down to our caption or or make it this design instead into a carousel. But if there is a lot of text here, I'm just going to delete. It's just really hard to work with. Even as a designer, I'm struggling here. So I could even just grab these boxes and bring it up here. So that might be my solution. This one here is okay, but it's really quite short. That's an odd looking amount of text. And this one here again is too long again. So what I would do instead is make all of these pieces of text and these headings similar length to help them to work. But I just want to finish making it bad. Okay. So technically all my text is now visible, but there's a few things wrong with it. And obviously we've got down here, our text is just too close to the edges of this box. And sometimes people accidentally jut things over as well when they're moving things around and they're not actually all lined up. It's another mistake I see very often. And this heading is quite small. And so just watch me as I fix this. Firstly, I want to make sure everything is aligned. So I'm going to grab all of these text boxes. I'm just going to select them all by holding down Shift at the same time. If I go to position, I can then left align all of these together. So now they're at least all lined up. If I do have a lot of text here and I don't want to make this shorter, I would make sure that this box is the right size, but I wouldn't just stop there. People just often stop there, or they make this text come right out to here. this doesn't look good. This is too close to the edges. Like I said earlier, we need to keep things away from the edges and create some margin. I've got some other videos on this that I speak more into it, so make sure you check these out. This one's more of a quick flyover to see how things actually work in practice. I'm going to make sure like this one here is too close to the edge down here, so I need to make this box larger. Now, obviously, we've changed the design layout quite a lot here because now our box in the background here, which was meant to be nicely aligned to our white boxes, is out of whack. So I need to make this a lot larger. I can change how I want this to be, but I'm going to make it kind of a bit like this. And when I change the font of this, you'll see that this circle is now an oval. And so I need to make sure that I'm editing this so it doesn't, because it's not an oval. I didn't want an oval. I wanted a circle, which feels a lot more less stretchy. And so I'm going to manually, I can't make this smaller because the text is just different. So I'm going to make my text a bit smaller. And then I can make this back into a circle. And you notice that these aren't actually lined up nicely to this anymore. I could just move these around, but sometimes we accidentally move them again, so they're not aligned anymore. And so that means they're not just right on top of each other. I'm going to just grab this and move it down. You'll see all these little pink lines that pop up on my design. If I just zoom in a little bit, these pink lines show me when things are aligned. So I can actually grab this and move it. And when it says that it's aligned like that, I know that it's straight and I know that it's lined up. I'm going to move these up and down just so that they're more aligned with the top of the text here. All right, I've got my heading in here, but the how-to, because I've changed the length of this text, is now no longer aligned with my heading here. So I'm going to move this to either be back on top of it like so, or I could fiddle with it and put it in the center if I wanted to, but I'm going to add it over to about there. Another issue I've got here is these little elements that I've added in, they're just kind of plonked there. They're feeling like they're just another thing for our eye to look at. It's taking over attention. So instead, I'm going to make it a lot larger and jut it off the edge of the design, and it's going to help it to feel just more like the background and more like a supporting element rather than trying to steal attention from the text. And what I've done here is because I've moved everything around, this text is now quite high inside my box. And if this was getting posted to Instagram, this would actually start getting cut off inside my Instagram grid. I've got a whole other video on that. I'll link it now, but in terms of where your grid gets cut off, I won't go into this now, but in essence, we're going to make sure that things will look good when it's cropped to a square on your Instagram grid. So I would try to bring this text down a little bit. All right, final template is this one here. It'll be a nice quick one for us to look at. But again, I want to show you the power of great photos and using your text well. So I'm going to go to my images, add in that bad photo here. And you'll see that this just doesn't look quite as fancy and fun and professional as it did. I'm going to leave this text as is. I'm just going to change this text as well. If I change the length of this text too, it's going to make a big difference. So I'm just going to put some random text in. And this kind of works, but again, it's covering my face. It's a little bit awkward. Things just aren't working. So some ways we could fix this. If I didn't have a better photo, or potentially I just had one I took myself, I could replace that in here. Not so bad, but you can see now that it's actually getting hard. This text is getting hard to read. If I zoom out, it makes it a little bit easier, but because there's such light sections in my actual photo, it's making it tricky to actually look at. The template that we were working from had quite what's called blank space or white space in this area, so the text was actually readable. So if I was going to solve that issue, what I could do is actually fade my image down so that the text was easier to see, but not fading it into white because that looks really just unprofessional, fading it into a color. So I can click on the background here and click on this color block, and I can change this to being a darker color. And you can see now I've still got the image of me, I still get my branding colors, I still get my branding fonts, but this text is now clear. So that's a far better way to solve this issue. So I hope seeing some of those examples at play in these templates was really useful for you, because when we start to utilize design principles for our business and actually apply things well, it can make a huge difference. So when you grab a template, don't just add your elements in, don't just add your fonts in and leave it. Make sure you really look at it with the critical eye and say, are things readable? Are things clear? Is there space and margin? Does it actually look good? And so if you don't have a brand already, because as you see, when I actually just apply my branding to these things, it's a lot quicker to make it look like me and my business and relevant to me, not just copying some template that everyone's going to look like. And so if you don't have a brand yet and you want support with that, then I would love to support you. I'm about to release a new program. I won't give any details away. If you're watching this in the future, you'll be able to access all the details straight away, but I'm going to release a new program where I'm going to help you with you and your brand and your graphics and your ongoing graphics as well. Not just like creating a quick, great brand, actually showing you in real time how you can apply your brand to these templates and doing it together. We're going to be co-creating your graphics together. And so if you want to get on the list, on the wait list for that, or join the program if you're watching this in the future, just make sure you head to whitedeer.com.au/club and you'll be able to find out more, put your name down and be the first to find out when this program is available. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week for another tutorial. Bye.